buried in that big, beautiful, disgusting abomination of a budget bill that Donald Trump has gotten passed through the House, but is now tied up in the Senate. On pages 550 and 551 or thereabouts is a buried provision, a submarine provision of trying to get Donald Trump out from under being found in contempt with his administration for violating injunctions. The way they do it, it's tricky. I cover it on The Intersection, a new podcast I'm doing on the Meidas Touch Network, and here's a clip. Let's talk about federal courts and injunctions as we round out The Intersection for this Tuesday. And there, as I reported a couple of days ago, buried on the 500th page of a 1,000-page bill was this attempt, and it got past the House already, to benefit Donald Trump and all of his problems he's having with courts, federal courts, trying to hold his feet to the fire and try to stop his abuse of power. At the recording here, as of this live recording, Donald Trump has over 200 lawsuits against him, the Trump administration, with more than almost 70 injunctions, preliminary injunctions, temporary restraining orders, and the like. And of course, Supreme Court rulings against him. There's about a half a dozen of those. Donald Trump also has been found in contempt or probable cause to find the Trump administration in criminal contempt by Judge Boasberg. That was put on ice by an appellate court. And then you've got right now, as we speak, Judge Zinnes in Maryland in the Abrego Garcia case, getting pretty close to finding the Trump administration in contempt for failing to either both advise her as ordered by the United States Supreme Court about what they're doing, which is nothing, to facilitate the return of Abrego Garcia from the jails of El Salvador, and in violation of that order. Now, what this bill that's been passed in the House and gone off to the Senate, and is the subject of these cross-examination hearings by the Democrats in the Senate and the Senate Judiciary Committee where the bill sits for now, is whether MAGA can benefit Donald Trump by making it harder for federal judges to find the Trump administration in contempt because they violate an injunction if the injunction is not supported by a bond. Let me break that down for you. In order to get an injunction, temporary restraining order or preliminary injunction, in normal situations, when constitutional rights and presidential power is not at issue, if I was just a civil litigant trying to get an injunction against another commercial entity, I would likely have to post a bond. What's the bond for? It's supposed to be the amount. It is supposed to be the amount of calculated potential damages if it turns out at the end of the case that the judge was wrong about issuing the injunction, what we call an improvidently issued injunction, to compensate that party for the damage they incurred for the year or more that the injunction was against them. And it could be $1, it could be $100 million or more. It depends on the injunction and how much money is at risk. That's in a normal civil case. But judges have generally interpreted that when a party comes in, and it may be a party that doesn't have a lot of money, but has a very good argument about a constitutional violation by a branch of government, in this case, the president, they don't need to post a bond. And that's consistent with state court practice, which I've practiced as well, where you don't need to get a bond against a government. That is sort of standard play here in America. Donald Trump doesn't like that. So they figured out, since Congress has a lot of intersection, to use the podcast title for today, with the federal courts in their Article 1 position intersecting with the Article 3 powers of federal judges. How? They fund it, right? Because they're the purse, Congress. So Congress funds the federal courts. That's one. Congress can change laws. Federal courts, by and large, besides the Constitution, interpret the laws made by Congress. That's the second way they intersect. The third way they intersect is that the Congress can pass, with guidance from judges, rules of civil procedure and criminal procedure. They can also react to Supreme Court decisions and pass laws to limit federal judges in certain areas. They create laws about class actions, the Congress does, about collective actions, about other things. They can set statute of limitations that courts have to apply for when the timing to bring a case, a federal case. They can do all that. What I don't believe that they can do is limit the ability of an Article 3 judge to issue an injunction. And then if that injunction doesn't have a bond, this new bill would say, well, no bond. Well, then a violation of it doesn't matter, and you can't get us in contempt. If a judge can't find a party in contempt for violating for violating an injunction, then it's completely toothless. Then you might as well get rid of injunctions. Now, it doesn't try to set the amount of the bond, but the fact that they're even interfering with a judge's ability to set a bond or not set a bond in order to support an injunction, which would be the basis for a violation in a contempt order, is a violation, in my view, of the Article 3 powers of a judge and the separation of powers. There are limits to what a Congress can do to tell a judge how to rule and how to set up his or her toolbox of remedies. Judges have inherent authority, even if there wasn't, and that's the other thing that they're missing. Judges have inherent authority under other statutes to issue orders of contempt. I call it contumacious conduct. Sometimes you hear it as contemptuous conduct, but in law, it's usually contumacious. Judges have inherent authority to regulate and administer their own courtrooms, even if there isn't a statute that says that, or a law that says that. And so I think they still have that power, because you can't have, well, let's play this out in a thought experiment. You can't have like Pam Bondi or somebody from the Department of Justice like Todd Blanche sit in the back of the room and start heckling the judge, oh no, I don't like that ruling. Rule this way. You can't force their hand. They have to be independent. You can't undermine the independence of the federal judiciary. And that's what I believe this does. And this has been hotly debated in the Senate. Right through the time of this recording. Where I think it comes out is I think it gets struck from the bill in order for the Senate to approve it and then reconcile it with the House bill and then send it to Donald Trump, the big, beautiful bill that he's waiting on. I don't think he's going, if he gets resistance, which he's getting already, and headwinds in the Senate, I don't think Donald Trump is going to walk away from any other aspect of his big, beautiful budget bill. Welcome back. I sit at the intersection of law and politics so that you don't have to. And we do it once a week on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Then I bring it over here on the Legal AF channel so that it's one-stop shopping, a clearinghouse for everything law and politics. I love the intersection because I'm able to sort of do it, no holds barred, not blowing smoke or sunshine. I love my co-anchors on Wednesdays and Saturday nights. But let's be frank, I like doing it alone once in a while and kind of setting my own course there on the intersection. Again, Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. on the Meidas Touch Network. You're here already on Legal AF. Hit the subscribe button. Come over to our Legal AF Substack. And we'll keep bringing you that type of analysis and commentary that you've come to expect from Legal AF. Until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.